Hi second year vets. I hope you guys are going along okay. Today I'm going to be making a 6-grain salad, part of the Farinaceous cooking unit. I'm also going to do a pumpkin and rosemary frittata. And if I've got some time, I'm going to do sweet and puffy Granny Smith omelettes as well. So I'm going to start off with the 6-grain salad because I've got to cook up all the grains, and a matter of fact we've only got 5 grains because I haven't got any barley. So what I'm using is some couscous. Hopefully you can see that there. Now couscous only takes a couple of minutes to cook up, so that one won't take me long. I've got some bulgur. Bulgur takes a little while to cook up, so I'm going to put that on for a bit. It'll take a bit of time. I've got some lentils here as well, some orange lentils which I'll cook up. I've also got some freekeh. So I'm going to cook up the freekeh. That takes a little bit of while to cook up as well. And I've also got some quinoa. Quinoa as well takes a little bit of time to cook up. What's really interesting about quinoa is once it's cooked, it actually looks like it's got little bits of cotton coming out of it. It's a really nice tasting grain. I love it as an alternative to fried rice. Instead of cooking up rice and frying the rice, I cook up the quinoa and I add that to my fried rice rather than having fried rice. I hope that makes sense. We've also got some other ingredients to go in here, but the first thing I'm going to do is get this cooked up. So because different ones take different times, I can't cook them all at once. So I'm going to take a bit of time to get them all cooked up, and I'll show you once I've cooked them up, what they will look like. Okay, back again, vets. Alright, so what I've done is I have chopped up zucchini, I've chopped up pumpkin, I've chopped up sweet potato, I've chopped up onion, I've chopped up some normal potato and some garlic. I've made sure that they're all consistent sizes. I'm going to pop some olive oil on top of this, and I've just got to find some. And then I'm going to pop it in the oven for about 20 minutes to get them all cooked nicely. Once they're roasted off and cooked nicely, and that's one of the key cooking methods today, I'm then going to add my eggs and my parmesan and the rest of the stuff to turn it into an actual frittata. So I'm going to put that in the oven now, and then I will be back. Alright, so for my frittata I'm actually making a bit of a savoury custard. So I'm going to pour this over the top of my veggies and then pop it back in the oven to let it set. So in here I have got 4 eggs. I'm adding a cup of flour. I'm also going to add a cup of milk. So the flour and the eggs are obviously going to help it set really nicely. So it's kind of it'll be an egg-based custard. So once that's cooking, once my veggies are cooking in the oven, with this poured over the top, it'll set it so it's a bit like I guess it's a little bit like a quiche, or a little bit like a zucchini slice. Probably more like a zucchini slice when it's finished. Alright, I'm going to add some salt, and I'm also going to add some pepper. The thing I love most about cooking is that you can pretty much add whatever you like within reason, as long as it fits in with the recipe. Okay, I'm also going to add some cheese into this. I've got just some tasty cheese. Just put it all in and mix it up. I've also got some parmesan cheese that I'm going to add. So this is grated parmesan. Just add a little bit more flavour to my frittata. Pop some of that in. As you can see, I'm not measuring it very well. And I'm also going to add a bit of spinach to this mix. Just going to sprinkle some spinach on top because I happen to really love spinach. One of my favourite vegetables to eat. So now I've just got to wait for my vegetables to roast up, and then I'll actually pour this mix over the top. pop it back in the oven and I'm going to cook it until it's nice and firm. And that will be my lovely pumpkin frittata. Okay, I'm just going to do part of the 6-grain salad. So what I'm actually going is I've chopped up my red onion, or half a red onion, and I'm going to give that a bit of fry up together with my pine nuts, which I've got in there, my pumpkin seeds, and I'm going to use a bit of that, and I've got some currants as well, which I'm going to fry up. And eventually, once all my grains are cooked up, I'm actually going to add all of this to my 6-grain salad, although it's 5-grain salad because 1 grain I don't have. I'm also going to add in some baby capers. So these are the baby capers here. So I only need a teaspoon of them. So I'll just pop a few in there, give it a nice bit of flavour. What else? I'm going to pop in a little bit of oil, and I'm just going to saute these up and fry them up on the stove top for about 2 to 3 minutes. Alright, I'm back. So I've sauteed up my red onion, my currants, my pine nuts, my pumpkin seeds for I'm trying to think what else I put in it. For the 6-grain salad, I've just got to wait for all the grains to cook up. As I said, they'll take a little while because I'm currently boiling them in different pots on the stove. Alright, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to start making my sweet and puffy Granny Smith's omelettes. So the first thing we're going to start off with is our apple compote. So 20 grams of butter in my wok, and I'm going to heat the butter until it starts to foam a little bit in the pan. We want it to foam a little bit so that it actually gives our diced apple a little bit of nice flavour, and it help cooks it up. Once that's done, we're then going to add cinnamon and sugar, and we're going to stir it until it actually caramelizes, so it'll go a nice brown colour. So I'm going to add half a tablespoon of brown sugar. Just got to find where I've put it. It's in here somewhere. And I'm also going to add a pinch of cinnamon to it. And I am going to add some pecans as well to give it a bit of a nutty flavour, which will be really nice. Cinnamon. Alright, so I might take you over here so you can have a look. Pinch. So I think if I pop you up there. This is a trial and error, balancing on things. You'll be able to see the butter starting to melt for our apple compote. Alright, I'm lucky over here. I've got like a 6-burner stove, so I can spread myself out a little bit, which is good. My grains are cooking up nicely in the pot of boiling water. I am just going to add a little bit more water to it because they actually suck up quite a lot of the moisture, and sometimes we need to add a little bit more. Alright, that's bubbling away nicely. So I'm going to add my apple to my butter. I'm just going to cook it until the apples are tender. So the apple, we want it to go a little bit soft. And butter's always good because it gives everything such a nice flavour. Alright, so that's cooking up really nicely. strawberry compote, you can do all sorts of fruit compotes, and they're really nice to go on top of pancakes. You can put them on cake. You can just have them in a little dish and eat them with some cream and some custard. And all it really is fruit just cut up really nicely and cooked up this way. You can do a pudding and put the compote in the pudding. You can do all sorts of things with compote. It's really quite nice. Alright, I'm going to add my sugar. So we want to cook it up till it caramelizes so it goes a nice little brownie colour. I'm going to pop my cinnamon in there to give it a bit of flavour. Give it a good stir. So cooking up the brown sugar, it will caramelise with the apple and give it a beautiful sweet flavour. So that's caramelising up very nicely. Hopefully you can see that. I'm also going to add, actually I'm going to chop up my pecan nuts. And I'm going to add my pecan nuts to that as well. So pecan nuts are really nice, give it a bit of a nutty flavour, and add that little bit of crunch in your apple, which will be really nice. I think, you know, things that we eat should always have a multitude of different textures, so that when we bite into it, we get that that interesting flavour and texture happening in our mouth when we're chewing on our food. It'd be pretty boring if it was bland all the time. Alright, so I've chopped up my pecans and I'm going to add them to my apple compote. Alright, so that's cooking up beautifully. It smells so good. I wish I could actually share it with you guys. I'm kind of sad that I can't. But hopefully we'll be back soon enough. So if you can see that in there, it just smells delicious. It's got like a cinnamon flavour happening, and there's like that caramelised toffee flavour happening, and it's sweet. I'm just going to try a little bit. Oh, yum. Like I said, I wish I could share it with you. It's divine. Okay, I'm going to pop it in a little bowl for now. I need my saucepan again. I mean my front wok. Alright. So I'm going to save that for later to go on top of our pancakes once we've made them. Like I said, it's just delicious. And I really wish I could share it with you. Alright, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make the Danish custard filling for our sweet and puffy Granny Smith omelettes. So what I need to do is I'm actually going to cook this up in my wok because I really want to get that flavour that we have in there of when we caramelised up the Granny Smith apples. I'd like to bring that flavour into my Danish custard filling. So I'm going to bring my milk to the boil. In there, I am going to mix my 1/4 cup of corn flour and, I'm going to add my butter to my milk and bring that to the boil. I'm going to mix my corn flour and my sugar together. So I've got 1/4 cup of caster sugar and I've got 2 tablespoons of corn flour. So the corn flour is going to work as a thickening agent. And then I'm also going to add an egg to this. Alright, so the egg also will be used as a thickening agent, but it's also combining our corn flour and our sugar together. If we don't combine it together, what can happen is when you put your corn flour in straight as a powder, it actually can go all clumpy and you won't get a very nice custard. I'm also going to grab a whisk. Because I find that whisking my custard is much better than using a wooden spoon with my custard. And the reason being is the whisk aerates the custard. But sometimes I find if I try it with a wooden spoon, I get lumps in it. Look, not everyone does, but I just feel more comfortable whisking everything up. So once I've brought this to the boil, I'm going to add my corn flour, sugar and egg to it. And as that's cooking on the heat, it's going to thicken. And then we're going to get a nice Danish custard with a little bit of an apple flavour to it, which will be really nice when we put our apple omelettes and our compote and our custard all together. I'm just waiting for it to boil, and then I'll show you what we're going to do. In the meantime, I'm actually going to check my 6 grains. And I've added a little bit of vegeta in there to give it a little bit of flavour. I always like to flavour my grains when I'm cooking them. Oh, they are cooked to perfection. So I'm just going to drain my grains in a minute. But I'm going to whisk up this milk, this custard. So my milk's boiling nicely, my butter's mixed in, and I'm going to slowly add my sugar and corn flour and egg mix. And you want to make sure that you're whisking it as it thickens. You don't want to cook the egg and make it scramble either. You want a nice, thick, consistent custard. So the heat, adding the heat, will help this custard thicken nicely. And I can see it's starting to thicken, I should say. And the main thing is to keep whisking. We know it's scrambled eggs. Starting to thicken up really nicely. Hence the reason I do use a whisk, because I know that it's going to mix it nice and evenly. And also with custard, as it cools down, it will slowly set as well. Alright, so that's mixed up really nicely. As it cools down, it should set really nicely. So I'm actually going to pour that into a bowl again and let it cool down in a bowl. And it should set really nicely, given it time. Alright, so that's our custard. I'm going to pop that over here. Alright, I'm bringing back my onion and stuff for my 6 grains. I'm going to pop the stove back on again. And what I am going to do is drain off my grains, drain the water off my grains. Actually, I might get a big bowl, if it makes sense. I'll run out of bowls. My sieve on top. Ooh, it's hot. I'm going to drain off my grains in here. Oh, it smells delicious. So we want to get all that water out. So give it a bit of a push around with the wooden spoon. And then I'm going to pour my grain mixture in with these. And I'm going to give this a good stir over the heat so that it's mixed through really nicely. So I've got all my different grains in there, as I said, part of the Farinaceous cooking unit. Got all my grains happening. Alright, I'm going to have a bit of a taste of it. That's really good. It's got so much nice flavour. The currants give it a little bit of sweetness, which is nice. The vegeta stock gives it a bit of savoury. So it's got a real, and then you've got your nuts in it and your pumpkin seeds, and it gives it a bit of a crunch. So there's a lot going on in there. Okay, as normal, my glasses have popped up. So I have brought out my roasted off veggies that I was roasting off for my frittata. And what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to pour my savoury custard egg over the top and make sure that it gets mixed in really nicely with my roasted veggies. Then I'm going to pop it back in the oven and I'm going to leave it in there until it sets, all right? So the main thing is to make sure that you mix it through so it's nice and even, and so that everything's mixed through nicely. And then I'm going to put, as I said, put it back in the oven. Probably take maybe another 15-20 minutes for it to set. We're basically just waiting for the egg and the flour to set really nicely with our frittata. So it's actually looking quite yummy. So back in the oven at 180. Alright, what I did do was I have plated up my green salad. As you can see, I've used a little ramekin to pop it on the plate nicely. And now I'm actually going to cook up my omelettes, my omelette for my apple. So I'm just going to wash my fry pan. A bit of a dry. Pop that on my stove top. Alright, I've made up my batter in here. So again, it's got water, milk, flour, caster sugar, vanilla essence, and eggs. I'm going to spray some canola spray on my frying pan, and I'm doing it over here because I don't want it near where I'm going to light the oven. Alright, I'll heat that up a little bit, and then I've got myself a little mini soup spoon, and I'm going to use that to drop my mixture on. And I'm going to drop 2 of them on and fry that up. So remember, we're looking for some bubbles in our pancake mix, or sorry, in our omelette mix. It's actually quite a thin one. And let's hope I do a good job cooking it, because sometimes I really suck at cooking omelettes, or cooking, little omelettes. So we'll see how it goes. I may stuff up the first one. Just give it a sec. Okay, my pancake is cooking up quite nicely there. Just needs a little bit more. I'm pretty bad at turning these over, so let's hope that it works out okay. Some things I can cook and other things I still struggle at, and that's okay. Oh, I didn't do a bad job. Alright, it just needs to brown up a bit more, I think. Not bad, Mrs. Schmidt, not bad. Alright, well I'm not going to stand here and let you painfully watch this, so I'll get these cooked and then I'll come back a bit later and plate them up for you to see. Okay, I'm back with our omelettes for our apple compote and custard, although I myself would call them probably crepes, but they've turned out really nice. So what I've done is I've popped 2 layers here. I'm going to spoon some custard on it in here. Hopefully you can see that. Just in the middle, and my custard's sitting quite nicely. And then I'm going to spoon some of my caramelised apple and pecan compote, on top. Alright, now the custard will spread out a little bit because it's still soft, but it looks pretty good to me. And then all I'm going to do is dress it with a little bit of icing sugar. I've got this really cool little tea strainer that I use to put icing sugar in. And I'm just going to pop some icing sugar on the plate just to give it something so it looks really good. So I will take a photo of it with my phone, but hopefully you can see that okay. So that's our dessert. Apple kumquat with a Danish custard and as I said, pancake crepes or omelettes, whatever you'd like to call them. Pretty simple, pretty nice, and I'm sure it'll taste really good. I will be back to plate up the other one once my frittata's cooked. Okay, so our frittata came out of the oven. You know, you can pretty much use any veggies in this. If you've got spare veggies, just chop them all up, add the flour and the eggs, some cheese to it, and you get yourself a beautiful, nice dish that you can eat hot or cold. So I've plated up my dish. So I've got my 6-grain salad. I've got my frittata sliced up there nicely. And we've got our apple pecan kumquat. I've gone blank. Pancakes or grapes or omelettes, whichever you prefer to call them. All right, thanks guys. So remember, the key things in this were that the grains are part of the Farinaceous unit. We used boiling for our grains, we used baking for our frittata, and we used shallow frying for our pancakes. Yeah, so I hope you enjoyed the video, hope you learned something, and I'll chat to you guys later.